Hey there everybody, Joe here. Thanks for watching again. Usually I'm painting on flat walls, but I actually have a three-dimensional surface here because there's this ledge that's popping off this wall. You can see I've started turning it into a tree trunk that's fallen over the edge. The way that I do that is first I want to obscure the natural light and shadow of this shape. So the top, this is a square kind of a shape. So I have this straight line where it's suddenly going to be lighter where light's hitting it. And so if I make that darker, then it'll counter that light. And you can essentially turn a textured wall into a smooth wall if you were meticulous enough to do that to every little turn. So I can camouflage this, but then at the same time I'll put my own lighting back in to make it look like a round log instead of a square shelf. And then I'll try to obscure the shape so it doesn't look so perfectly horizontal. I've got my red, yellow, black, white. Make this log real eroded away and just leave a knot still left behind with maybe some moss on it. So this gets into what people commonly call trompe l'oeil, if that's the right way to say it, where you're really trying to make the painting not look like a painting but a real three-dimensional object. And so I need to make sure that I make my shadows as dark as possible and my light as bright as possible, because real light is much brighter than just a color. Putting white on a flat wall that doesn't have real light shining on it will never be as bright as sun actually shining on something. So I have to use the highest contrast that I can if I want this to look real three-dimensional. So that's why the big load of black. This is this is gloss black. This is actually a high gloss. I like it because of how black it is. It can be annoying when you're at an angle and you see reflection, but I feel like if my work is well done enough, then the reflection that the black has is real forgivable. It's a matter of preference. I like it because of how black it is, like I said. I want to make this part of the log real concaved and moss on it and everything, so maybe I'll start by just putting let me just build the shape here. I'll put red and yellow right here. I'm kind of thinking that this is going to get brighter as it comes out. This is a knot that's coming out that way, and then like this. I'm just going to get the shape and worry about the colors after I feel good about the shape. One thing I always try to do when I'm obscuring a real object is try to do a lot of angles that interfere with the natural angle. So I'm doing a lot of tilted lines on this, so that the busyness of all of those tilted lines takes away from the natural straight line. This is another shadow I want to get rid of, so I'll actually use a lighter color on the underside of this right here, so that when the sun is shining, this underside will not be as extremely dark, making that real obvious shadow. Helps to camouflage this whole shape. Yeah, I like how that looks. And then I'll have my black is gonna come in here and maybe cut that shape off right about there. So this will all be real concaved. Maybe I can even make a little bit of that waterfall behind it coming down right there. We'll see. And I'll cover this all up. And I got to remember that people are going to be viewing this from a downward angle, so I want to tilt this down so that when someone's standing up here, it looks like they're looking at the top side of it. I like to mix right on my surface because it leaves, if I pull off of it soon enough, it leaves a lot of it unmixed. So I get some cool colors in there that are just left behind. They're just what happens by chance, not being mixed. Now, like I said, I want this to be brighter than this because this is going to have natural light on it. And I also want this to have moss on it, so I don't think I want to leave it this color. But I just, I like seeing the shape come out. I use real heavy paint when I'm doing a technique like this. This is on stucco. It's just really heavy texture, so it's real hard to get clean lines if the paint isn't just very heavy. So you can see again, I'm using a very bright white to do this. I mean, the reason it starts to look 3D really is a lot just because it's going from so bright to so dark. And then I'll try to do a good job of making it gradually transition into this shadow. And then of course I want it to, I need to add red when my colors mix with black. I don't want it to start getting too green. So you saw me add a little bit of red into that mix. Yeah, there we go. And I think I need a little bit more color altogether in here because I want a little bit of shape and texture visible inside of this cavity. So, this kind of a knot, I think it would be neat if I somehow could just make this whole thing just divided apart. That's going to be pretty tricky to do that. I don't know if I can, but I think it'd be cool if this was some of this was actually busted away. And to do that, I think I would need to, let me try it. Let's just see if it's possible. I got to make this rock color here is what I need to do. Red, yellow, and white, and we'll have it. So really I'm trying to just make this disappear now. So I'm going to get bright white, put it under here where there's a natural shadow. To make an object three-dimensional, I want to put a color on the edge that's a little different than the color on the main body of it. And I'll put a little bit of red and yellow in there for color. We'll put a few spots kind of sticking out, just and see that little bit of streakiness ends up working well with that natural wood look. You can camouflage something even better by kind of going with it, but then varying from the path. A little bit more of this black and a couple of these deeper spots will look good. And when I stroke across the black, it leaves real skinny lines where the color, makes a stroke, and then there's little skinny areas of black, and I just let that be the negative space that's left behind. So it's an easier way to make very tiny details. I always like to have color between my light and shadow. It always looks more natural if there's that little bit of color in between my white and black here. Alright, cool. Now, where can I put some moss? I think it would be cool to load up this area with moss, so I'll grab some blue, and then I'll get some black, because I want it to be a real muted green, because it's down here in the shadow. It already has texture, so if I just go like that, it leaves a mossy texture. I just think that's so convenient. I could put moss all over this log with just the stroke of a brush. I'll say it again, when I need to paint on heavy texture, heavy pressure is not the answer to getting it in the deep texture. It's actually light pressure to keep the bristles pointed straight at the picture. Repetition, straight bristles. I am doing this little, so that's some pressure, doing this little bit of jabbing, but it's not a lot. I mean, it's not just jamming the brush in there trying to get it. I'll get a touch of white to really bring that out. I like the way that little piece looks. Now, I've got a problem to address here where I've just got this straight edge. I need to continue to build out my rock. I need this to go away so that all you see at a glance, and that's really all it needs to be, is a glance, and that'll be enough for a viewer to like it. You know, if it really sends the message, then it's cool art. You know, it doesn't have to be totally real. Okay, there we go. And I'll take that exact color and put it right in here. Now remember my trick. I brighten that underside. Add a little yellow so it doesn't look blue. And I just have to make it consistent with what's down here. I think I just need a little more shadow in here. I should put a shadow there. Let's see what it looks like if I just put a shadow. What if we shadowed this rock so that the log is going across the rock? And it didn't occur to me that the log might actually make a shadow on the rock. So that might work better. Maybe there's just a little bit of light popping through. You know, if you can put a gradient behind a solid line, you know, like this is a line that runs through a gradient, you get a very three-dimensional effect. And then I'll put that same dark color down here so I can get rid of that line altogether, hopefully. A little bit of red. I used a lot of red and black in my shadows. Put a little yellow just for good measure. We'll do a real dark shadow here. It gets lighter as it comes this way. And I'll do a dark shadow here under this log. And add some orange to it. Make this log look like it's touching that rock. You know, because the closer this gets to the rock, the darker that little shadow would become. So, make it nice and dark up in here. Black all up in there, make some negative space between the leaves. It's so cool how you can just undo a shadow. Well, to an extent. Alright, now I just gotta put a bunch of green leaves around it. I think that it'd be cool to have more moss though. Let's do more moss. Yellow. See this edge so that that doesn't just look like a sudden cut line. I'll put gray there. I'll do just like I do in all of my round edges on a flat picture. I just put a different color on that edge. In this case, it's reflecting that water. Get that grayer color there. Round that edge out. Just black and white. I love painting on textured walls because they're so forgiving. The texture hides all kinds of imperfection. I'll put a few cracks in this log. Put a big crack in there. See, that's one of those things that'll help obscure that square wall because it's high here, low here, it's tilted.